Hello, and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I am Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel are Magic. We have got a new format. It's called Pioneer, not Frontier.
Cool. You got it.
I
You
nailed it
figured
that
out.
time.
I'm
nailed
excited
it.
for you.
I'm getting there. We've got sleeper picks for you from what set are we doing now? Dragon's Maze. We've got our sleeper picks from Dragon's Maze.
It's almost as forgettable as Gate Crash.
Almost,
So
but we've got some. I think we've got some cool picks. I'm excited to share them. Before we get into it, if you wouldn't mind, hit subscribe and like on the video. If you like it by the time it is
Only
over.
if you're logged in.
Yeah, only
I just
if you're
want
logged
them to
in.
know
Don't
that.
create an account. We don't need you to do that.
I don't want them to go do anything. I want them to just watch the video.
It really helps us out, though, if you do click something down there. Let's get into talking about our sleeper picks. Jake, up first, we got Tajik, Blade of the Legion. I think it's important to note, before we do get too deep into this, that we have picked sleeper picks. We are not picking the obvious stuff here. We are aiming at cards
so if
that
you're like,
we
where's
think...
Voice of Resurgence?
Right.
It's not here.
Exactly, it's not in this list because right now we have picked cards that at the time of the video are around or less than $1, but they were relevant at the time they were in standard, and we think that they could at the very least be revisited to confirm whether they're not going to be in the format or to maybe make a good deck out of them.
Yeah, and some of these might be above $1. There's like a couple cards that are like $5, but compared to where they could be.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You got Tajik, Blade of the Legion here, indestructible as soon as he comes into the battlefield, and when him and a battalion are moving, he becomes a 7/7.
Yeah, I mean the most important word on this card is indestructible.
Right.
It's not a bad 4-drop in a good aggro deck.
Well, indestructible is huge. As a person who plays a lot of aggro, obviously the aggro weakness is board wipe. And so you play cards like this. You play cards like that vampire from the Ixalan block that you could pay 3 life and give it indestructible. Anything, Adanto Vanguard. Anything that can get you around a board wipe so that you can at least have some presence on the battlefield is going to be huge for a deck type like that.
Yeah, and I think you said it best. There's not really much left to say other than that. I think the card is really good, and I think at the time of filming, this card is maybe 25 or 35 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to a control finisher after seeing an aggro board wipe survivor, Aetherling. This card could play.
Oh, dude, this card was so pesky when it was in standard. It
still
drove
pesky.
me up a wall. It's still pesky. It's played in Commander. It's not really played in Modern or Legacy because it's so expensive. I think it's played a little bit in Control, but that's where this card, once you play
control's
you
not
deserve
huge.
to win with it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you've got a good control shell built around with it. And Modern is so fast that control is not really a hugely viable strategy. So maybe we see that in Pioneer, maybe we don't, but if we do, this is the kind of card that's very cheap right now and could show its face as a control finisher.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it shows up and, maybe alongside Pearl Lake Ancient was a card at when it was in Khans of Tark here.
Yeah.
Also, alongside a Lochmere Serpent. I mean, hell, this card could play alongside Deputy of Detention and Teferi, Time Raveler, and then all of a sudden it's just oh, yeah, they got to their Aetherling. And that's the thing about Aetherling is once it resolves, once you get to that next untap,
right,
it's pretty much over for your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, because what do you need? You need at least 1 blue open once it hits the battlefield and resolves. And it's gonna dodge pretty much anything that could happen to it unless they have, I don't know, two spells to remove, and if you have a second blue, you just activate the ability again to get around the second removal.
Yeah, it has that Deadeye Navigator hopelessness that comes with it. Once you see it resolve, and maybe you do have a removal in hand, but it's not going to be enough. It's a very gut wrenching okay, we've lost to the Aetherling.
Right. Yeah. After that, we've got Maze's End. This is one I've actually seen people talking about on Twitter more than a lot of the more sleeper picks that we've shown in this video series.
Oh, okay.
Maze's End, I mean, Gates is already a strategy. You've got a Gates deck that is standard legal right now. You've got a Golos deck that they've just banned Field of the Dead in standard, but it could absolutely operate. This is a secondary strategy for that deck, you know?
Yeah, dude, this is a really, really cool card. I like the idea of it being a secondary strategy. I think it absolutely gets hosed by mill. You know, like an Ashiok is gonna just bend this card over and just like, oh well, they exiled some of my gates that I was depending on to win the game. But at a card that's like 25 or 35 cents right now, you know, you pick up a playset for $1.50, and you know, it's one of those things where you could look back on it and go, damn, you know, Mace's End, that was a mythic, and it's a $10 mythic now, and well, I mean, it said win the game.
Right, exactly.
You know?
And you know how we love win the game here at Jake and Joel Are Magic.
Win the
Talking
game,
about
baby.
a way to win the game. It doesn't say it on the card, but Blood Baron of Vizkopa. Now, there's a little bit of a deeper strategy to this one. We really think that Vampires is going to be a viable tribe in Pioneer. Simply because of 1 black, 2 other Planeswalker that's -3 ability just says, put a vampire from your hand onto the battlefield. And honestly, Blood Baron of Vizkopa coming out on turn 3 in a good Vampires deck shell, that seems terrifying.
I mean, you know, it could even be turn 2, dude. If it's a Llanowar Elf, turn 1.
Sure.
And then, or Elvish Mystic, and then you're playing Sorin on turn 2, and now you have Blood Baron of Vizkopa out on turn 2, 4/4 lifelinker, protection from white and from black, ready to get in, and it's gonna swing and hit face until it gains enough life that now it's flying in the air. Yeah. Like, it's a good card. It's a good card. It's a good combo. It's absolutely, it's kind of like obvious to us, you know, looking at it, it's like, oh, yeah, that's the thing.
Plus, it's a mythic. If the Vampires deck does take off, you know, I think this is one of your better top end. Play it, you know, as quickly as possible in some of these Frontier, Pioneer format sets.
Sure, and I think it is worth noting that it was printed at Rare in Iconic Masters, but Iconic Masters was a premium set that has gotten more expensive over time.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be scarce, is our point. If
it will be
this kind of deck takes off and Blood Baron is the house that we want it to be, especially if it's coming in on as early as turn 2 or turn 3.
Right.
Here's a card that's actually in Modern. Our buddy Jake MTG.
So this is like $4 or $5 camera right there.
He's been already talking about this card, and he I think himself is responsible for bumping it up because of the on camera that he got at GPLA with Pleasant Kenobi talking about this in a Modern shell. I mean, this is the kind of card that I love. You know that.
Dude, it's excellent. You sneak it onto the battlefield, I believe, using the boar. And then by the time it hits, because it has first strike, the boar hits after it, and then you win the game. I think is the way the deck works. So they play that raised board that's currently in standard. Yeah. That boar swings, Master of Cruelties hits first, then the boar hits second.
That is a very interesting combo. Yeah.
But there's other ways to abuse this card. But the fact that it is mythic, it's from a set that I wouldn't really say was opened a lot, but honestly I can't speak to that. It was a set that was very unpopular. Right. And so a lot of the product hasn't been cracked, possibly because of Pioneer, more of it will be cracked. Yeah. But this is a card that's just it's really cool. It does a lot, and it wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, no, if it blows up a little bit, you know, I could see it being $10 if it's a card that is actually played in a competitive deck, and we should know quick, you know, because it is going to be a very competitive, pro level supported format. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Those are our picks from that set. We got more videos in this.
Dragon's Maze picks.
The Dragon's Maze picks. We've got more videos in this series. Check them out. We kind of have gone through set by set and picked our sleepers. We do have a Patreon if you want to support us further. We are streaming twice a week over on Twitch, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think that's all I got, Jake.
And I think we have Theros coming up.
Yep. Appreciate you. Catch you next time.